Hello, class. Today we're going to be doing skill 22, and we're going to be talking about binomials with radicals and conjugate pairs. So, mostly we're going to be talking about how to rationalize something like this, where we have two terms in the bottom and one of them is a radical. So, our objective is to use conjugates to rationalize expressions with radical binomials in the denominator. So we have a definition for what we're doing here. Given the radical expression, the square root of a plus the square root of b, the conjugate is the expression square root of a minus the square root of b. Now, I think we learned about conjugates back when we talked about complex numbers, and it's the same idea back then. We just changed the sign between the two terms. Now we are using the same idea with radical expressions. Now, when we did conjugates with complex numbers, we did it to get rid of the imaginary part, the I portion, and the same thing happens when we use conjugates with radicals. It gets rid of our radical, and that's how we're going to use it to rationalize. So let's go ahead and take a look at this first example. So up here it says multiply the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate to get rid of the radicals in the denominator. So we have this square root of 5 minus 1 here. To get rid of that, so we need to multiply the top and the bottom by the conjugate of that, which is the square root of 5 plus 1. So I'm going to do that off to the side over here. So this is what that should look like. So now we know we need to take 2 times root 5 and 2 times 1. Make sure you distribute these fully. You need to take root 5 times root 5 times 1, negative 1 times root 5, negative 1 times 1. I'm going to go ahead and distribute my numerator and my denominator fully. Make sure you multiply each term by each other. So this is what it should look like after you have fully distributed. Now notice when we multiplied the root 5 times the root 5, we end up with just the integer 5. And also we have this positive root 5 and this negative root 5 in here. So these middle terms are going to cancel each other out. So that's what happens when you multiply conjugates by each other. You end up without anything with a radical. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and simplify this a little bit. We can take 5 minus 1 and we can cancel out these root 5s. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So this is what the denominator should look like after it's been simplified. 5 minus 1 is 4. These cancel each other out. And then we can simplify this even further. Every term here can be divided by 2. So we can factor out a factor of 2 from all of this. And we end up with just root 5 plus 1 over 2. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at number 2. We need to do the same thing here. To rationalize this, we need to multiply it by the conjugate of this in the denominator. So we need to multiply everything by root 3 minus 4. I'm going to go ahead and write that out now. So the conjugate of this, we just change the sign to negative, and we multiply the top and the bottom by this root 3 negative 4. Make sure you distribute fully when you multiply these together. So we need to multiply 6 minus root 3 times root 3 minus 4. We need to multiply each of these together. Think FOIL. And then the same thing for the bottom, and that will get rid of all of our radicals. I'm going to do that now. So this is what I got when I distributed the numerator and the denominator. So now we have some combining like terms that we can do here in the numerator. We have root 3, we can combine those, and negative 24 minus 3, we can combine those. In the denominator, the middle term cancels, which is good. We don't want a radical in the denominator. And we also have 3 minus 16. So I'm going to combine all of those now. So I got 6 root 3 plus 4 root 3 is 10 root 3, and then negative 24 minus 3 is negative 27. 3 minus 16 is negative 13, and these middle terms cancel. And this is as simplified as this can get. There's no common factor in these terms, nothing else we can do to simplify. So now I think we can go ahead and go to U try number 1. So get out your U tries. Look at number 1. We want to simplify this, so we'll need to rationalize. We'll need to multiply by the conjugate on the top and the bottom. Go ahead and try number 1 on your own. Pause the video and try this, please. This is what I got for my answer. So the conjugate for negative 3 plus root 2 is negative 3 minus root 2. Remember, we only want to change the sign that's between the terms. So this stays a negative 3, just this plus changes to a minus. So we only want to change what's between the terms. So this plus changes to a minus. And then we need to fully distribute. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. 4 times negative root 2 is negative 4 root 2. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. Negative 3 times negative root 2 is a positive 3 root 2. Root 2 times negative 3 is a negative 3 root 2. And then root 2 times negative root 2 is a negative 2. And then we can combine like terms, nothing to do on the numerator. The denominator, we just need to take 9 minus 2, and that's 7. The middle terms cancel. And there's nothing else we can do to simplify after that. That right there is your final answer. So let's go ahead and go back to the notes. We just have one more example on the notes and then one more you try. So this example is a little more complex because the first thing we need to do is to combine these two fractions into one common fraction. So to do that, we need to get a common denominator. So right now we have a 2 over here and a 2 minus root 3 over here. So it doesn't look like they have any common factors already. So that means I need to multiply this fraction by 2 minus root 3 over 2 minus root 3, and then this fraction by 2 over 2, like we did before in previous lessons. So I'm going to do that now. All right, so I multiplied this 1/2 by 2 minus root 3 over 2 minus root 3, multiplied by this 3 over 2 minus root 3 by 2 over 2, so that we can get a common denominator. So the denominator is going to be 4 minus 2 root 3. That's what I get in both of these over here. The numerator, when I distribute this, I end up with just 2 minus root 3 because I only have a 1 here. And then 3 times 2 is 6. So now that I have this common denominator, I can actually combine these into one fraction. So I'm going to do that now. So the only thing we needed to do was take 2 minus 6, and that's where we get the negative 4. Everything else just comes right down. Minus root 3, and then 4 minus 2 root 3. So now that we have this as one fraction, now we're at the step where we can rationalize. So we need to multiply this fraction by the conjugate of this, 4 plus 2 root 3. So in the denominator, we have 4 minus 2 root 3. So the conjugate is going to be 4 plus 2 root 3. I'm going to do that right now. All right, so again, the conjugate is 4 plus 2 root 3. So I multiplied the top and the bottom by that. When you distribute the numerator, negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. Negative 4 times 2 root 3 is negative 8 root 3. Negative root 3 times 4 is negative 4 root 3. Negative root 3 times 2 root 3 is 6. So we'll have negative root is negative 6. Well, negative root 3 times root 3, which is negative 3, and then multiply by the 2. So we get negative 6 there. In the denominator, we have 4 times 4, which is 16. 4 times 2 root 3, which is 8 root 3. Negative 2 root 3 times 4, which is negative 8 root 3. And then finally, negative 2 root 3 times a positive 2 root 3. So we have negative 2 times 2, which is negative 4. And then root 3 times root 3, which is 3. So negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. So that's what we get when we distribute all of that. So now we can do some combining like terms. I am going to do that now. So negative 16 minus 6 is negative 22. negative 8 root 3 minus 4 root 3 is negative 12 root 3. And then 16 minus 12 is 4, and the middle term cancels. So the only thing left we can do here is we can factor out a 2 from all of this and cancel that in the numerator and the denominator. I'm going to do that now. So when we cancel out that factor of 2, you end up with negative 11 minus 6 over 2. One last thing to do here is the u try number 2. This is going to be like this last example. I want you to get out your u tries and try this one on your own. So u try number 2 looks like this. Very similar type of problem. You will need to combine these into one fraction first. You will need a common denominator. Once you combine it into one fraction, then you can go ahead and rationalize. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Pause the video and try this, please. All right, and this is what I got for my answer here. So first we need to get a common denominator. Currently, the denominators don't have any common factors, so I just multiplied this fraction on the left here by 1 plus root 5 over 1 plus root 5. Multiplied this fraction by 3 over 3. So our common denominator is going to be 3 plus 3 root 5. That's what I got for both of these. When I multiplied this numerator, I get 2 plus 2 root 5, 2 times both of these. And then 4 times 3 is 12. So now that I have the common denominator, I can go ahead and add my numerators. The only thing we need to do is 2 plus 12, that's 14. The 2 root 5 just comes down, and the denominator is still 3 plus 3 root 5. The next step is to rationalize. So this denominator here, 3 plus 3 root 5, the conjugate for that is 3 minus 3 root 5. So I multiplied the top and the bottom by that to get rid of this radical in the denominator. So when you multiply out your numerator, 14 times 3 is 42. 14 times negative 3 root 5 is negative 42 root 5. 2 root 5 times 3 is 6 root 5. And then 2 root 5 times negative 3 root 5, if you take the 2 minus the negative, or the 2 times the negative 3 is negative 6, and then 5, root 5 times root 5 is 5, so negative 6 times 5 is negative 30. And the denominator, we have 3 times 3, which is 9. We have 3 times negative 3 root 5, which is negative 9 root 5. 3 root 5 times 3 is positive 9 root 5. And then 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Root 5 times root 5 is 5. Negative 9 times 5 is negative 45. So our middle term cancels, which is good. So this will be rationalized. 9 minus 45 is negative 36. We have some things to simplify in the numerator as well. 42 minus 30 is 12. And then negative 42 root 5 plus 6 root 5 is negative 36 root 5. One last thing we can do here is we can reduce this fraction by a factor of 12. All of these terms can be divided by 12. So we get 1, and then negative 36 divided by 12 is negative 3 root 5 over negative 3 again. This was a pretty complex problem. So if you're able to do this on your own, good job. If not, look over my answer a few times, pause the video and look over this a few times, catch your mistakes if you can. If you're struggling with this lesson or on the IP, please come to my office hours or Ms. Claywell's or Ms. Parsons' office hours. I hope you are doing well. I hope you have a great day. Bye.